Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. My mom would have been 84 years old today if she would still be alive. And one of the things that she loved to do was bake bread. And one of the things that she would add into her bread to stretch the flour was oatmeal. And oatmeal is one of the things that we put up here for long-term storage. And I always have a couple of buckets of oatmeal vacuum sealed and put up. I like to use oatmeal within about 5 years. Eventually it does go bad on you, but if it's vacuum sealed and put up in a sealed container, it will last quite a while. For you guys, I'm actually going to show you a recipe that Mom used out of this Blue Ribbon Bread cookbook here. This was my mom's favorite cookbook, and I'm actually going to share a little something with you guys here. If you see a pristine cookbook, that means nobody ever used it. Any cookbooks that are worth their salt, so to speak, are going to be banged up, and there's going to be corners folded over, and there's going to be stains on them because they were actually used in real kitchens and not just sitting on a shelf to look pretty. Anyway, I'm going to turn the camera around here. I'm going to talk a little bit about oatmeal and the ingredients that I'm going to use in this loaf of bread here that I'm going to stir up for you guys. All right, guys, here is sort of the star of the show here. It is oatmeal. Now, oatmeal comes in a couple different variations. There are a quick oats, which are sort of a pre-cooked. They cook in a minute, and then there's old-fashioned oats. And there are certain recipes where quick oats does a better job, like those no-bake cookies. And then there's certain things, like if you're making streusel to go on the top of like a Dutch apple pie or a coffee cake. I actually prefer the whole grain old-fashioned oats for that, and I also prefer the old-fashioned whole grain oats for putting up for long-term storage. And you can kind of see here that is about the same size. This is just a little bit bigger. This is 2 pounds, 10 ounces. This is actually 7.5 pounds of oatmeal. So once it's vacuum sealed and compressed, you get a lot more bang for your buck as far as space savings goes. And I will typically either transfer the oatmeal that I take out of the vacuum seal packages either into mason jars, or I'll actually save some of these cardboard containers and use them. Now, oatmeal is in a bread recipe is typically going to be like reconstituted with some boiling water, and to let it set for a little bit to sort of wake up, and then it's added into the other ingredients like your flour and stuff to make your oatmeal bread. And that's basically what I'm going to do. And a couple of things here. I'm actually going to use my homemade canned butter or ghee for this particular recipe, and then molasses is something that is fairly common. Either molasses or honey are typically added into oatmeal bread, and then that gives the yeast some sugar to work with, and that's basically part of the flavoring of making a good oatmeal bread. And I'm also going to mention jams and jellies. I'm a big one for making jams and jellies, and one of the reasons for that is jams and jellies can be used as flavoring in other things like what your old-fashioned and your quick oats oatmeal is. So if you're just cooking oatmeal for breakfast or whatever, if you have some homemade jam, you have some homemade jelly, you have some homemade maple syrup, you got local honey, those are all good things to add into that oatmeal. And oatmeal, as a general rule, will typically be used as a filler in other recipes, sort of like the bread that I'm making here today. But anyway, I am going to get into Mom's favorite bread cookbook here, and I'm going to make you a old-fashioned oatmeal bread, and we're going to get this stirred up. One other thing with oatmeal bread is it takes a little bit longer to rise, so you don't want to be in a hurry when you're making this because there's less gluten in it because of the oatmeal. You got to give it a little bit more time. Anyway, I'm going to start stirring this up here for you guys, and we're going to get a loaf made. And here is how we're going to start our oatmeal bread here. I got my half a cup of canned butter or ghee in there. I got my cup of old-fashioned rolled oats. I got a teaspoon of salt, and then I got a half a cup of molasses. We're just going to stir this good while I got the tea kettle going on the stove here, and then we're going to add our water into this to let our oatmeal reconstitute and soak up so we can add it into our flour and our yeast. All right, we got our water hot. And we are going to do about a cup and a quarter to a cup and a half of water. Let's see what's what we got in there. Looks like about a cup and a quarter. I'm going to add this into our oatmeal molasses canned butter mixture. Going to give this a good stir, let this come down to room temperature. Then we're going to add a couple of eggs into this with the yeast, and we're going to start adding our flour. All right, I have transferred the oatmeal mixture into a larger bowl. This has sat a good 20 minutes, so it's come down to our room temperature. Going to add a cup of flour into this now. We're going to give this a good stir. And when that flour is all incorporated, we're going to add our yeast mixture into this. All right, we have stirred our flour in and we've added the yeast mixture. The yeast mixture was just a half a cup of lukewarm water with 2 tablespoons of yeast out of the freezer. Now, if you guys aren't catching all these ingredients, don't worry. I will put this recipe and the instructions in the description for you guys so you guys can follow them if you want to make this for yourself. Anyway, I'm going to give this a good stir now, and then we're going to add in 2 beaten eggs. Our yeast is stirred in now, and now we're going to add in our 2 beaten eggs. And then we are going to start adding flour into this. The recipe calls for 6 to 6.5 cups of flour, and we've already added in the 1 cup, so we're going to add probably another 5 cups of flour to this, and then we are going to knead a little bit more flour when we knead it out. All right, this is what the dough looks like after I worked in the 6 cups of all-purpose flour, and I had a chance to knead it a little bit. You got yourself a pretty solid dough. Now, when you're making bread, I know a lot of people use the mixers, and I got a stand mixer and stuff too, but there's something about when you knead the bread yourself, kind of get your hands on what you're working on. It's very cathartic. Anyway, I am going to let this go now, and I'm going to cover it up with a towel, and I'm going to let it rise. Now, there's not as much gluten in this as there is regular bread because you got the oatmeal in there, so it's going to take a while for this to raise up. I'm going to let this go probably at least an hour and a half, and then I'm going to divide it into 2 separate loaves to get them in the Dutch ovens and get it in the oven. All right, guys, it's been a couple of hours, and this is what our oatmeal bread looks like. Now I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to divide this into 2 separate loaves, and then I'm going to get those loaves into these 2 Dutch ovens here lined with parchment paper, and then I'm going to let it rest a little bit so it has a chance to rise a little bit more before I put it in a 375-degree oven. All right, we let these guys rest and raise for another hour once I had them divided and in the Dutch ovens here with parchment paper. You can see there what they look like. I did slash the top in a X, and now we're going to put these in the oven here for about 40 minutes at 375 degrees. All right, these guys have baked for 40 minutes. They are done. We are going to take them out of the Dutch ovens now and get them on the cooling rack. We're going to let them cool, and then we're going to give you guys a wrap-up. All right, the bread had a chance to cool, and I sliced off a couple of pieces there, give you an idea what the texture looks like. And now we're going to turn around the camera here. I'm going to give you guys a taste test. All right, guys, that's what it looks like. Bread like this is particularly good with like cheese, summer sausage, ham, because that little bit of molasses in here gives it a little bit of a sweetness, and then anything that's any meat or cheese that's got a little bit of saltiness to it goes really good with something like this. It's got just that hint of sweetness from the molasses. And The oatmeal gives it a moistness that you wouldn't have with just a regular flour bread. There's something about that oatmeal that it retains some of the moisture during the cooking process and gives you very moist, fine texture. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. I appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys got a little information, a little entertainment out of this video. Just showing you guys an alternate use for oatmeal. You guys have a good one.